to the channel. I'm Nico, and welcome back to part 3 of my Fnaf review series, where we'll be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the most underrated Fnaf game. How is it underrated? Well, let's find out and start the review. Upon starting the game, you'll get a newspaper ad, just like the first two games, of an amusement park that has made Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, in which they plan on scaring your socks off with a new urban pizzeria chain based on Legends of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Upon starting night 1, you'll be introduced to a phone call, your phone guy of the game, aka a new phone guy this time around, a radical dude, which I wish was in the game longer, but of course he will act as your tutorial for at least the first 2 nights before apparently disappearing, which is a definite change of pace, but will easily make my time easier because as he disappears, the calls become a lot more interesting. So anyways, he'll pretty much just tell you, of course, how to use the equipment of your office and what you're going to be doing at your job, making sure no one sneaks in or makes around in the dark corners of the place. And of course, to make sure that all the programming and systems stay online. As the ventilation systems, if they go offline, you'll see some crazy stuff, man, so make sure to keep that air flowing. But yeah, pretty much nothing for this night, as he'll just tell you pretty much what they've got for this horror attraction based on Five Nights at Freddy's. So, but yeah, he'll pretty much just tell you that they've got desk fans, all this. They went the whole 10 miles with the place. The whole place is pee yellow. They have all this stuff from Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, as they are really just scavenging for all this FNAF stuff from the old pizzeria places, destinations. So, of course, that's pretty much just night 1. As night 1 is pretty much irrelevant, it goes by really quickly, and there's really no freaking animatronic on this night. So that's actually really good, because this is the first ever FNAF game that actually has you be able to easily sell it on the first night and get you attached to the mechanics, get you useful to it, let you settle down for the night, and of course, learn how to use your equipment. So anyways, upon starting night 2, stuff tends to start going off again. The fun guy will apparently let you know that they found old training tapes for employees featuring the spring lock suits, which are mechanical suits that can be worn by the employees but are extremely dangerous, as you'll learn later in the night calls. But then he will let you know that they found one, a real one, and that it is in there somewhere, and that he'll sure you'll find it. But of course, then he's going to leave you with the audio tapes that they found of the training tapes. In this one, this animatronic, he's referring to an animatronic that he's putting around the place, aka Springtrap, aka William Afton, aka the purple guy. Which, yes, night 2 is when you now have an animatronic after you. And the mechanics are very interesting in this game, but I'll explain that in the mechanics section. But as of right now you have to deal with Springtrap, and if you don't know what to do with him, well, it's only night 2. He's fairly easy on night 2. And as the nights progress, things will get more difficult as you also see more of your friends. But that doesn't... And Springtrap is actually the only animatronic active in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. But if you did not know, that does not mean you won't see any of your favorite friends from the previous games, but in the forms of phantom animatronics, which can jump scare you, but they don't kill you, because they're hallucinations. That said, night 2 is pretty much easy, but if you don't know what you're doing, you could possibly die on night 2. So, yeah, things can be a little difficult at first, especially with learning how to use the mechanics against Springtrap. But of course, as the phone guy leaves, he'll leave you with some training tapes, which you'll actually be listening to throughout the entire game and will no longer hear the actual phone guy. But the more interesting thing about this is that, well, after he leaves you with the training tapes, you'll recognize that the voice of the training tapes are, of course, of the original phone guy from FNAF 1 and 2, meaning he did make the tape, meaning he did voice for the freaking Springlock training tapes. So, yeah, isn't that quite a callback? As he pretty much just explains throughout the entire game that how to use the Springlock animatronic suits, and then eventually telling you how dangerous they are, and eventually them being discontinued and being put in a back room, and that no one's allowed in the back room, and to, of course, have the back room immediately moved, and, of course, is invisible to animatronics. There's no cameras in there, and, of course, is off the radar. So, yeah, pretty freaking sus. Anyways, upon starting night 3, well, actually, there's not much to talk about now because I pretty much just stated that all the phone calls really don't get interesting other than the animatronics becoming more active and you being introduced to the more Phantom animatronics. So, of course, on night 3, you can see Phantom Freddy and, of course, Phantom Chica. And, of course, Phantom Mangle if you're unlucky. And, of course, a very rare animatronic that can actually appear is Phantom Foxy. So, pretty much almost everyone can be active on night 3. So, that's actually really freaking freaky. And, of course, Springtrap becomes more active as the nights progress. But upon starting night 3, well, you're introduced to Phantom Foxy most likely, and of course the Phantom Puppet. Yes, the puppet is now a Phantom animatronic that can appear in this game. And this is of course now when I need to mention, of course, the minigames that can appear in between the Five Nights at Freddy's, in between these nights. As there are minigames that you can play in between these nights, in where you play as Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie, and Chica, as you just saw before, as I was playing as Freddy, as you being lured by a Shadow Freddy figure, which is of course the purple guy trying to lure the animatronics to the back room, as they can't go back there because there is an error causing purple guy to come out and of course dismantle the animatronics. And this of course happens until night 5, which we'll get into in a second. Anyways, night 5! Which is pretty freaking difficult, but I don't find it nearly as difficult as night 6 as, well, I've been able to beat all 5 nights fairly easy in this game because I know how to play the game very well. But Nightmare Mode is, it's its own thing. It's really freaking difficult. But of course, anyways, all the Phantom animatronics are very angry, and of course, Springtrap is as active as ever. And of course, as you beat night 5, you'll be introduced to another minigame, but this time you play as the Crying Child, and where you are able to actually get into the back room. But of course, things are different. You're able to get into the back room, and of course, you see Purple Guy freaking out along with the other 4 dead children, meaning that you're playing as one of the 5 dead children from the original game. So of course, with that said, your duty is to, of course, scare Purple Guy into the Spring Bonnie animatronic suit because, well, the Spring's Bonnie suit is in there until you chase him long enough until he actually runs into the suit himself and then starts laughing about it until, of course, the spring locks go off because, well, the place has been really run down. It's raining, and of course, he's obviously very panicking and has a lot of breathing problems as he is freaking panicking. As the spring lock suit goes off, killing him with it, creating what we know as Springtrap later on. Because these events actually happen 30 years before Five Nights at Freddy's 3 actually happened. So these minigames are actually past events that lead up to what happens in FNAF 3. So of course, you'll then be unlocked with the bad ending screen with the heads of the animatronics with lights in them indicating that the souls of the kids are still trapped within the animatronic suits. And I'll get into the good ending in a second. But this is very interesting though, as it makes you want to wonder what you could possibly do to get a different ending, as this is the first Five Nights at Freddy's game with multiple endings. But of course, let's get into Nightmare Mode, aka Night 6, where things are extremely freaking difficult. Like, I even have some trouble trying to beat this night. And one time I actually stopped playing it for about a few months and then got back to it just to beat it because I needed to beat it. But yeah, upon beating Nightmare Mode, you are unlocked an extra ending screen in where you see a newspaper clipping of Fazbear Frights burns to the ground as the ancient pizzeria chain burns down overnight, and that may have been caused by faulty wiring. So, yeah, the place is burned down, most likely indicating that Michael Afton, aka the person you actually play as in this game, has decided to burn down the place because it must have been him trying to, of course, finish off his father, William Afton, aka Springtrap. As also, if you lighten up the screen of the paper on the newspaper image, you can actually see Springtrap behind the little Freddy doll thing. So, yeah, very freaking creepy, but this also, of course, indicates that he's actually survived. So, Yeah, sorry, Michael, but Willie Method's here to stay, because he cannot die. He always comes back. Anyways, upon beating Nightmare Mode, of course, and getting that newspaper clipping, you, of course, get your second star along with more extras, such as the jump scares. And to unlock the minigames and cheats, you must actually get the good ending. And to get the good ending is actually quite a monumental task, as you gotta play a lot of the secret minigames. As you gotta actually either look up a tutorial or, of course, in the mini games, always go to the left hallway before following Shadow Freddy, as there are a lot of hints there throughout the nights of what you need to do. And if you know how to interpret these hints into getting the secret cutscenes, mini games, then you should be able to do all the mini games. And of course, as you do the mini games, it requires you to play as the Mangle, get the cake, and then play as the other animatronics and use the cake to comfort all the crying children until, of course, night 5, where you actually finish the final minigame, then beat the night, then, of course, do the same thing with trapping the purple guy within the Spring Bonnie suit, creating Springtrap, as you'll then be rewarded with the end. Doesn't even say the good ending, it just says the end, as the souls of the kids has finally been laid to rest and are finally freed from the animatronic suits, as the animatronic heads are there and completely soulless with no lights at all. You have completed Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And of course, unless you want to actually attempt the aggressive nightmare mode, which is pretty much this game's version of a 20 mode, which Markiplier actually managed to beat and create himself. But of course, with that said, let's get on to the mechanics of the game. Now, you have quite a few mechanics in this game to help you survive the night. You have a camera system to your right with actually 2 layers of the map, this including the regular cameras and, of course, the ventilation system. You can, of course, actually close one vent at a time by double-clicking on these vents. You also have an audio cue, which you can actually supposed to use to lure Springtrap away from you. But if it's too far away, well, he can't hear you, so you need to actually do it in the cameras he's right by. And of course, you have the maintenance panel to your left, which helps you reboot the systems that go offline, such as ventilation, camera, and of course, audio devices. The audio devices lets you use to play the audio, and of course, lure Springtrap. The video error is extremely important, as if it goes off, then you need to actually fix it, because that will actually turn off your camera. And of course, with the ventilation systems, this can either go off by itself, or of course you get jump scared by Phantom Animatronic. And if you let the ventilation go off for a while, your room will start to blink red, and of course you'll start to pass out as your eyes start to blink, and that'll actually cause Springtrap to move a lot faster. So yeah, every time there's an error, you most definitely need to actually fix it immediately. There's also a reboot all button, but you don't really ever have to use the reboot all button unless all 3 of them are going off. Because if 2 of them are going off, you could just fix them faster than rebooting both of them with the full reboot. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And for the Phantom Animatronic mechanics, of course, well, Phantom Freddy will walk in front of your room, and the way to avoid him from jump scaring you is, of course, to just don't pay attention to him. Either keep the camera up or the maintenance panel up and wait for him to walk all the way through. And of course, with Phantom Balloon Boy, he will actually appear in your cameras every now and then. And the way to avoid him is to actually immediately change cameras or put your camera down immediately. And of course, for the most of the other animatronics, they actually have their own set cameras, such as Phantom Chica being seen on camera, I believe 6 or 7. As you just gotta pretty much, if you see her on those cameras in the arcade cabinet, that's when you actually gotta just look away and don't look at the camera for a while until it goes away. The puppet can actually appear on cam 8, and he actually does something different, and you definitely want to avoid him, as if he gets into the room, he doesn't jump scare you, but he'll appear in front of you, causing you to black out. And of course, he'll block your view for quite a while, giving Springtrap enough time just to get to you, which is pretty freaking creepy. And of course, with Phantom Mangle, she can appear on camera 4, and she'll actually take out your audio and appear in front of your office if you let her in. So definitely avoid that camera too. As for Phantom Foxy, I believe he's the biggest douche of this game, as he can appear on the left of the screen almost at any literal time, as he can actually surprise jump scare you, and is probably the only animatronic that actually surprise jump scares me still to this day, as he has no set pattern. I don't know what causes Foxy to jump scare you, but he can just randomly appear on the left of the screen after you're checking the cameras and just jump scare you, causing the ventilation error. And finally, as for Springtrap, he'll actually move around the dark halls of the place and or go into the vents, and your job is to use the audio to, of course, lure him away. And if he's in a vent, shut down the vent he's in, because most of the vents actually are detrimental to your safety, because, well, all the vents actually can lead directly to your room. Except for camera 5, which actually leads into the front of your room. If he goes to the camera 5 vent, you do have a chance of surviving, as he will just appear in front of you and you use the audio to lure him to cam 2 away from you, and then upon that, just lure him away from there. But all the other cameras actually lead directly to you, such as the cam 10 vent, the cam 9 vent, and the cam 2 vent, and of course the cam 12 vent, which is just, they all lead either to the left of your room or literally into your room from the right. As I don't know why the ventilation's directly connected to your room, but yeah, this is really freaking detrimental to your health. Also, why did the phone guy have to find an actual animatronic? Like, wouldn't he have known it was extremely active, and wouldn't it have attacked them after they brought it in? Like, come on, William Afton is not that happy type of guy. He's a freaking murderer sociopath. But anyways, with that, that's all pretty much all the mechanics. Let's get into the animatronic designs, which I think are really freaking perfect for the game, in that the Phantom animatronics are a very nice burnt color, which is a very nice touch into the whole burning down this place eventually on night 6, which is really freaking cool. They really match the horror theme of the Fazbear's Fright horror attraction. And of course, Springtrap really matches that whole pee-pee yellow aspect of the horror building, and is extremely creepy, and one of my most favorite designs for any of the animatronics, as it is pretty much a broken down spring bodysuit. You can actually see some guts coming off of the animatronic suit himself, and if you look at the feet, is really freaking creepy, and he always has this intimidation effect, which is really freaking creepy. And in the cameras, he's just even more creepy. And as he plays some kind of hide-and-seek role, where that's pretty much all of what Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is. It's a lot of you just, like, playing hide-and-seek with him, as you gotta try to find him in the cameras, as he's very sneaky on the cameras. But I think all the animatronic designs for this game are extremely just excellent. They are excellent. Really good freaking models. I really love Springtrap, and of course the Phantom animatronics really fit the horror aspect, and of course the whole thing with them looking very burnt, indicating that the place will eventually burn down, is really freaking cool. As some people have theories that this is actually Michael hallucinating about what he wants to do, which is of course burn down the place. Anyways, with that said, let's get on to the flaws with the game. And may I say, I don't think this game generally has any flaws other than most of the jump scares. As in its jump scares. As this game actually does not have a camera issue, like a flaw with the camera usage, as every camera is freaking useful, as you gotta be searching for Springtrap and making sure you pay attention to him and lure him away. And of course checking the vents whenever he goes into an event, as Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is finally the first game to break the camera usage flaw, as literally all the cameras are very useful. You don't have some kind of specific camera to check, like the music box in FNAF 2 or Foxy in FNAF 1. Literally all the cameras are useful and detrimental to finding Springtrap. And of course, stopping him. But the only actual flaw I found with this game, of course, is that, well, there's 2 flaws, but one of them is very minor. But one of them that a lot of people tend to have problems with is, of course, The jump scares being very lackluster. As I remember when this game first came out, I wasn't really all that scared of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 compared to the first two games, and I was able to watch it very comfortably. But the game makes for but you can't really blame the game for having very lackluster jump scares, and it's mainly really plot based. It is the first actual FNAF game that actually mainly focuses on the story itself, as the gameplay also can be a little slow, as that's the other minor as that is the other minor flaw of this game, is that the gameplay is often slow, but it doesn't suffer from being somewhat luck based, as most of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is actually skill based, except for of course like Nightmare Mode, which I can really debate that Nightmare Mode is actually somewhat luck based. But for most of FNAF 3, it's one of, if not the very first, one of the only skill based FNAF games, as the other games did imply skill, but of course have a lot of luck based to them, as in you don't want animatronics to stay at your door for too long, or of course don't want to get over jump scared by the animatronics in FNAF 2. But yeah, the jump scares in this game are fairly lackluster, and the only animatronic jump scare that really often gets me is Phantom Foxy, but everyone else is not even that scary, and of course that's when the main problem appears. And what people turn off from this game is that it has slow gameplay, which is a minor flaw, and then a major flaw with the jump scares, as it's a horror game. It's supposed to be scary. So yeah, this is where it gets that underrated flawing, as let's get into the conclusion. Now, FNAF 3 was a pretty controversial game. You either loved it or you hated it. But honestly, I think FNAF 3 was very underrated and underappreciated, as people were really actually turned off because of some of the gameplay and, of course, most definitely the jump scares, as this game is mainly plot driven and gives us a lot of plot within the Five Nights at Freddy's story, which I can appreciate. It is really a nice change of pace. And honestly, I think the whole aesthetic too is really good for the horror theme, as most people don't even find it to be really good with the horror theme and just find it disgusting, which I heavily disagree. This really feels like a horror attraction with what they've done with the place, and of course really looks like it's a haunted house based on Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And I really appreciate that. And the jump scares may be lackluster, yes, but it's the story that really captivates me and of course keeps me playing the game. And that's really where this game has its unique sense of bringing you into the game, as you want to know more about the game and what's going on, as there's a lot of secrets, mini games, and of course a lot of plot within the game, with of course the mini games and the Fazbear's Fright closing down, and of course the Spring Lock suit tapes, and of course Springtrap in the new Phantom Animatronics. If you wanted to find out what has really happened here and how this horror attraction was able to suffer badly from what Freddy Fazbear's Pizzerias have had, which is of course tragedies like fires going on and investigations, which is really freaking interesting. I really think this game is extremely underrated and that people didn't give it as much love as it did. But I do understand that people did not like the jump scares, as they are not scary, and of course the gameplay being somewhat slow. But again, that's when you gotta realize that FNAF 3 is really good at what it's made to do, which is of course being a lot more plot driven, and really captivates me and most other people. And I'm pretty sure most people would agree that the story of FNAF 3 is a lot more interesting from FNAF 1 and 2, as it is a lot more captivating with the storytelling, and of course in all the mini games and all the secret meanings and the endings, as it is the first FNAF game to actually feature multiple different endings. But yeah, I really truly think that FNAF 3 is truly underrated, and that people could have loved it more and should have appreciated it a lot more than what it was. And I really didn't have a problem with the gameplay. The gameplay was extremely unique and a lot more skill based than before, which I really appreciate. And of course, broke the flaw of every camera usage, as there's only really one camera to use in the first two games. As in this game, you can use every single camera, as they are all useful into finding Springtrap. But yeah, I really love FNAF 3, and I really do think it is the most underrated FNAF game. But hey, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about FNAF 3 and if you guys think it is underrated or not, which I do believe it is underrated. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification button so you never miss a video. This has been my Five Nights at Freddy's 3 review, and stay tuned for part 4 where we'll be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the most scariest FNAF game. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next video, stream and or post. Make sure to stay safe. Have a great day or night. And I'll see you guys in the next stream, video, and or post. Later, Gators.